Today we're going to talk about sit-ups versus crunches, but actually we're not going to talk about sit-ups very much because I don't like them and they're not that great anyway. Crunches are what we really ought to be doing, and I'm going to tell you how to do them without hurting yourself. So sit-ups are the things that I did, and I expect a lot of you did too, in school, where you lie down on your back and you're completely stretched out, and they tell you to put your hands behind your head, and then somebody sits on your feet in gym class, and you then proceed to yank your body up into a sit-up position, sitting straight up or moving your elbows towards your knees as many times as you can in, I think it was a minute or something. And it was brutal and it was humiliating. At least for me it was. And, maybe a lot of you listening are great big strong people and could do sit-ups, but I could not. And I was competitive enough that I would really yank myself and hurt myself because I wanted to prove to everybody that I could do it. So being competitive didn't really serve me very well. So we're not going to talk about sit-ups because they are, it's a lot easier to hurt yourself doing them. If you want to know how to do a sit-up, you can look it up yourself, or you can even email me and I will tell you exactly how to do one. But most likely, if you're doing sit-ups, you already know how to do them, or you have someone that can work with you. So, crunches. The best way to do a crunch is to lie down on your back, have your knees bent, and I like to put my calves on the stability ball, or because, or you can put them up on a chair, or you can just have them, bent with your feet flat on the floor. I like the stability ball because it engages your abs just a little bit more than it does if your feet are on the floor. So you're lying on your back, your knees are bent. There are several options for your hands. I like to put my hands, interlaced fingers, behind my head. Your head needs to be relaxed and resting in your hands. Your head and neck are not used in a sit-up. Your arms are not used in a sit-up. So my favorite position is hands behind the head just resting back into my hands. Another way, if you want to make the crunch a little bit more challenging, just put your arms above your head. The longer the limb, the more challenging the sit-up. So that's another way. Another way is some people put their arms across their chest. They'll put their right hand on their left shoulder and left hand on their right shoulder, and crossing arms over your chest that way. People like to do different things, and you can try whichever one works for you. And some are more challenging than others. Just see what works for you. The main thing is to keep your shoulders, your neck, and your head relaxed. The action is in the abdominals, and the action is also on the exhale. So when you inhale and you're resting back, your head relaxed on the floor, you inhale, and then when you exhale, you pull your belly button into your spine, you pull your waistline into your spine. You make those muscles in the middle of your body as small and as contracted as you can. This is creating a wraparound effect of all of the muscles in your midline. Also, pulling in your pelvic muscles as if you were stopping the flow of urine. Concentrate all on those abdominal muscles and pull them in. And that contraction is what pulls your shoulders up off the ground. So the harder and tighter you can make that contraction, the higher your shoulder blades are going to come off the ground. Don't worry about how high you get. The important thing is to get that contraction. Also, when you make that contraction, your low back becomes flatter onto the ground. Your pubic bone or your pelvic bone, not your pelvic bone, but your pubic bone, synthesis pubic bone, points towards the ceiling. So you have a pelvic tilt. So your spine curves and flattens out on the ground. That contraction pulls your shoulders up. And the harder you can make that contraction, the higher your shoulders are going to come. Hold that exhale, and then while you're at the top, hold it, and then release back down to the ground slowly. You don't have to jerk. Not sit-ups, but crunches are not about jerking. They're about controlled movement. So take it slowly up and control it down. You do it as many times as you can until you begin to feel those muscles fatigue. And when you do feel that fatigue, then rest for a moment and do it again. Some people like to pulse. So if you're up at the top of that motion where the contraction is the fullest, you can pulse, just tight, and pulse your breathing as well and keep that contraction. Or you can do an isometric contraction so that you're holding that contraction for seconds, as many seconds as you can while you're at the top of that contraction, and then slowly lower back down. So that is the basic crunch, remembering all the while to keep your head and neck and face and arms relaxed. That's what's really important. Just concentrate on your abdominal muscles. This is not going to give you six-pack abs unless you don't have any fat on your belly. The only way to get those six-pack ab look is to not have adipose tissue on your belly. So don't worry about that. Just forget about that. All you want is to be strong, because the abdominal muscles are crucial in our entire body's ability to move freely and to be mobile. So another little variation on this is because the basic crunch just gets the rectus abdominis. It gets the other abdominal muscles too, but you really ought to be doing the oblique muscles as well. So to do the obliques, you do the same thing with that contraction on the exhale, with the contraction pulling you up. But this time, you're taking your opposite shoulder over to the other knee. So you're taking your right elbow over to the left knee. And you feel this along the diagonal in the rotation muscles of your core. So do this slowly and controlled until you feel those muscles fatigue, and then rest, take a breath, and then do the other side until you feel that side fatigue. You may want to count so that you do both sides the same amount of repetitions, and then rest, and then do it again. The more you can fatigue those muscles, the better you're going to get. The thing with abdominal muscles is you can exercise them every single day. A lot of times they say, if you're lifting weights and that kind of thing, it's better to skip a day. With abdominals, you can exercise them every day. I like to roll over when I've done the abdominals from the front and do some cobras, which I can talk about later, but it's essentially doing the same thing, but lifting your chest up off the floor or your legs up off the floor. And I will talk about how to do that correctly at a different time, but it's always good to do the opposing muscles. So if you do the front of your body, it's good to do the back of your body. So that's it for crunches, and it's a great exercise to do every day, and go do it. You'll feel better.